Now, a small baby is also often a reason that they'll tell you you need to have a C-section, or they'll say you need to induce. Now, this is something that actually happened to me with my own pregnancy with my son, is that I was measuring smaller at 35 weeks, and they tried very hard to convince me that he was not growing properly. But I trusted my intuition, and I'm also really good and stubborn. And when I don't want to do something, I find every loophole that I possibly can. So my loophole was going for non-stress tests twice a week and going for bi-weekly ultrasounds to be able to figure out if my son was still growing and if he was healthy. And as long as he was healthy, I was not inducing, I was not having a C-section. I was just not doing it. So I probably really frustrated the hell out of that OB, who was hoping that I would just follow the recommendations. But the thing is that I don't. And I teach my clients how to stand in their own truth so that they're able to tell their care provider, thank you, but we won't be inducing. Thank you, but I won't be scheduling a C-section until I feel that it's necessary. And they're able to stand strong even when their care provider is trying to scare them, because of the tools that I've taught them how to use them, and the questions to ask, and the mindsets to shift into, and to be able to really feel strong and confident in saying no, even when everybody around them is saying, you should just listen to your doctor. So the thing about the small baby, though, is that oftentimes your care provider will say, well, we need to induce, because that way your baby can be on the outside, and then they can get their milk, and then they'll be fed properly. Basically telling you that your body is insufficient at feeding and nourishing your baby. Now, the thing is that true intrauterine growth restrictions, usually there's other complications involved in that. So if you don't have any of those other complications, you could just have a small for gestational age baby. And the way that they basically tell you that your baby is too small is they're going by percentiles. And percentiles just mean the average of the size of the babies in that population. So if you happen to be someone of a different ethnicity, or you happen to be in a population where everybody seems to have massive babies, suddenly your baby is in the second percentile for growth compared to all these really big babies. And the other one is if you happen to be in a population where there's smaller size babies, oftentimes because they're being induced early, or because of maybe that's just the genetic makeup. What happens again is now you're being told your baby is in the 95th percentile for growth, and that scares the crap out of you. But percentiles, throw them out the window, because you are an individual and so is your baby, and they're on their own growth curve. So when they say that your baby is too small for dates, that could technically mean that your baby has longer time that they need to catch up in growth. And this is what happened to me, is that my son, he had his head growing at the faster rate, and then his body caught up at 39 weeks. I have the stretch marks to prove it. I had absolutely no stretch marks at all until my 39th week, when he just suddenly shot up in growth, and then like my belly just grew overnight. So the other one, though, is that I've seen a lot of 42 and 43 week mamas who have babies that are 5 and 6 pounds. So when you hear that, when you think about a baby that's only 5 or 6 pounds at 43 weeks, when they're finally ready to come, what would happen if you induced that mother at 39 weeks because they said that the growth was not where it was supposed to be? Well, that baby might be 4 pounds or 3 pounds, definitely not ready to be born. But because of the way that the medical system has basically pathologized birth and said you have to go into labor by a certain point and everybody has to follow this timeline, if you fall off of it, they're going to push induction, and induction leads to C-sections. Sometimes they might even say that your baby's not going to even tolerate labor and you need to have a C-section. You have the C-section, you find out that your baby is premature. Or the other one is you wait until 40 weeks and then you have your baby, but you find out that your baby was not that small your baby was actually 8 pounds. So I ended up avoiding a C-section and avoiding an induction. But I was told repeatedly from 35 weeks onwards that my baby was too small. And I did have a small belly, and it was not on schedule with what they thought that the growth was supposed to be. I carry my babies in my back. So I have a tiny, cute little round belly. And unfortunately, that made me measure smaller. So they kept saying, well, you're still behind in growth. But I was stubborn, and then I ended up pushing out an almost 8-pound baby. So again, big baby, small baby, not a reason to automatically schedule a C-section or an induction. And if you see any more traps that I've mentioned before about natural birth traps, then hey, I would love to hear from you what you're spotting out there in the mom community. I can't be everywhere at once. So you can always send me a message, or you can put it inside of the Facebook group, because what I do is I collect all of those and then I put them in a nice list so that you can then recognize them. And then I teach content on it as well. So if you're loving these videos, please like, share, and subscribe on my YouTube channel. You can go to empoweringmomsbirth.com as well and check out my website where I have a bunch of resources. I'm creating a blog now, and follow me on all my social media channels at Empowering Moms Birth. All right, so that's all I have for you today. Talk to you soon.